Hi, friends. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to this session on hybrid data management across heterogeneous storage for cloud, core, and edge. Myself, Sanil Kumar. I'm part of Soda Foundation, working in the TOC and architecture work group, working with Huawei Technologies.
Hi everyone, this is Ashit Kumar. I'm working with Soda Foundation and I'm one of the member of the India Outreach Committee and I'm working with Huawei Technologies. Yes, Anil, you can start.
This title tells that we are going to tell some story, and the expectation is mounting. So, how do we start a story?
Yeah, tell some interesting stories. I think I love some interesting stories.
Okay, let's see whether we can make it interesting or not.
I hope so.
Yeah, as usual, any story starts with once upon a time. I think that's the traditional way of telling a story.
Make it
You
modern.
also, sorry?
We'll start with traditional and make it modern.
Yes. So here we go. Once upon a time.
Begun. Collectives of organic molecules evolved into one-celled organisms. These produced multi-celled colonies. Their various parts became specialized organs. Some colonies attached themselves to the sea floor. Others swam freely. Eyes evolved, and now the cosmos could see. Living things moved on to colonize the land. The reptiles held sway for a time, but they gave way to small, warm-blooded creatures with bigger brains who developed dexterity and curiosity about their environment. They learned to use tools and fire and language. Star stuff, the ash of stellar alchemy, had emerged into consciousness. Begun.
That the story of mankind with big brain, rather big data. So this is something like we born with. Often we underestimate this. So this can store almost like 1 petabyte to 2.5 petabyte. We started talking about petabyte recently, but we born with it. Okay, so what else? I mean, we started playing with the data. Data is not just a new thing. Data, we started playing with data long back. Do you know what is the thing in the middle? There is a garland kind of stuff, necklace.
Yes, it seems so.
This is one of the first wearables with data analytics inbuilt. I would say it's called Kipu or something like that. So basically, you can see the color, you can see the length, you can see some notes in the thread, right? Each of that indicates some kind of data information. So it used to be a wearable. It can be used for some calculations and some data storing and kind of stuff. So the wearable is not a new thing. So if you see the data, the kind of volume of the data or velocity of the data or veracity of the data, variety, because initial time frame we needed some very limited kind of data or very limited quantity of data. And the value of the data used to be very high because whatever data we have, it was invaluable. We had less, but it was invaluable. Because of that, the verification and visualization is very simple. Say, for example, like we mentioned this wearable, this is like what do you call it can store some amount of data with knots and length and kind of stuff because the data amount is very less,
Okay.
right? So the visualization is also very easier. Now we started evolving from there. So the data started growing, and that's when we started thinking too hard how to manage this data.
Oh,
So
wow.
yes, so we started creating problems or generating more data, and we found out better way to manage the data. So you can see on the right hand side bottom is the latest kind of a data center available. Is that enough? We stop? No, we continue the story. So we kept generating tons of data, tons and tons of data. So because of this, the volume of the data became massive, and the speed at which we generate accelerated. And the veracity of the data, most of the data, we don't know, we are very uncertain about the data. And variety, you can't even imagine the kind of data we today generate. And the value, yeah, we'll talk about it. We will just talk about low now, but we'll talk about the impact of the kind of data what we generate. We'll talk about in the subsequent slides. Because of all these things, the verification and visualization has been very, very complex. Why? Because every day, every second, we generate data through WhatsApp, through Facebook, through YouTube, and we have tons of, not tons of, but at least tens of WhatsApp groups. And every day you get the same video in all the groups, but you need just one copy. That's a way we are exploding the data generation. So I can read this number. We started talking about zettabyte. And if you see, one interesting fact is that if you see the growth, see the last 4 years, it's really exponentially growing or exploding the data. So we started talking about petabyte very recently and then now changing to zettabyte. Now, if you see, there was one article talking about the most of the data, 90 plus percentage of the data in the world we generated last few years. That's a kind of ability we have today because of all the technologies, right? Because
And in 2020, the current situation might have led to this data deluge more, right? The exponential growth will be more.
yes, everything is online today.
Everything is online, right?
Yeah, even this video otherwise would have not generated like this.
Exactly.
So technology, the demands, the kind of requirements you have, the data is getting exploded really dramatically and in an unpredictable way. So what do we do? Do we stop generating the data? No, we start innovating to manage the data, right? So we explode or we generate the data. Now we need to manage the data. What is the intensity of that management? Is only, do you have any guesses that how much percentage is useful data we generate in general these days?
Just my guess, hardly 5% of the data.
Yes, you're almost there. So it's really shocking that 3 to 5% or 3 to 7% is the valuable data out of whatever we generate. Yeah, thanks to technologies. And that's why we have paycheck every month. So we work in that. So we have to continue generating data, and we find different ways to manage it and derive the real value of those 3% to 7% of data and infer valuable stuff. So the visualization, verification, all these things give us enough job to innovate. So we have different storages and different platforms. So when you generate data, data has to be stored somewhere, and data has to go through some platform to process. So you have different storages today from different vendors and different platforms, from be it Kubernetes or OpenStack or VMware or Red Hat based, OpenShift and so on and so forth. And now you need to manage the data to derive this value, whatever we talked about, and data operations, and so on and so forth. Now, we started all these things from simple to complex. If you see on the left-hand side, it is very, very simple kind of, when we started talking about big data, that was a kind of situation wherein it was very simple to start. But if you see, after some time, we started finding more and more software modules because we are not able to manage with a simple kind of situation. And this is where we are heading to, or we are already there. So if you see something like a data, this is 2019, maybe 2020 now, I do not know how many more projects are added on the software. So we are trying to keep our life simple, but this is what happens today. That n number of software and platforms to manage your data, and data management has become essential, and the data is an essential commodity for our life today. Now, this is what we are creating, because every vendor, every platform, they have their own solutions. If you see on the north side, you have different kind of use cases, be it IoT, AI, ML, big data, cloud native. To add to complexities, we have edge computing. And on the south side, traditionally you had on-premise storages from different vendors, be it IBM, be it NetApp, like that. So I think you have been doing some kind of analysis on the cloud storage. What is that situation there? Do you have unique storage or it's fragmented again?
It's the same, fragmented.
Yeah. So there are multiple cloud vendors, right? And they are all coming up with different options. I think recently, most of the cloud vendors started supporting file and block as well, right?
Right.
So earlier we started only with object.
Yeah. All started with the object and went into the block and file. The necessity is there.
Right. So this fragmentation is actually increasing because of the demand, right? So that is where we stand today. But still, what we want lives to be simpler, right? That's when we started thinking about one open data framework, which can give you infinite possibilities. Anyway, you can't compromise on the requirements, but still you want to make it simpler. That's when we started thinking that can we have a one data framework which can cater to all the platforms and all the storages below. It's a big dream, but yeah, dream makes the story more interesting. So Soda Foundation, we started thinking about this, that how we can unify this rather than fragmenting it. That's what you see on the right hand side. The blue color is our stack. We'll explain it further. Where we want to have a platform interface to the north and all the storages interface on the south. And that is not limited to on-premise. It can be cloud. It can be even other SDSs and also the edge storage. That's where we are. Our vision or dream is that. And it is really challenging because vendor side, everything is vendor locked in. Platform, it is platform locked in because CSI for Kubernetes, maybe Cinder and Manila for OpenStack. Yeah, we have different kind of situations where it was necessary that to consolidate in OpenStack some kind of protocol, container storage some kind of protocol, right? So that's where we stand. But yeah, there is nothing wrong in dreaming. So this is our dream, that one open data store where we have unified data management API, because the data management is your basic necessary service today. Because without data, no other technology today, be it AI, be it big data, or be it cloud, edge computing, analytics, anything you talk about, we need data service. So we are envisioning that we have a unified interface, global metadata, and try to support all the storage classes like file, block, object, and then a unified backend manager to support be it edge storages, core that is on-premise and cloud. How do we get there? And what we have, is it just a dream or we have something in place today?
Yeah,
That's what.
Over here, as you were talking, like even the metadata and the policy, the value we derive out of those data, your previous slide, you were talking about that value, right? So that we can get from the metadata and the policy you define for managing your data. Again, the same story continues for that.
True, very true. Because this, when we talk about this one data store, I think the global metadata concept or that can become a critical factor and most challenging. How do you unify your metadata? It's very hard. So, and most of your data mobility, data operation is based on policy, like you mentioned, right? So the policy and the global metadata controller can actually get you there where we want to go, which is the hardest part as well.
Right.
Story continues, as you said. So we started our journey first with on-premise, wherein we try to connect the heterogeneous storage from different vendors, be it IBM, NetApp, or Huawei, or any other vendors, the storages. We started thinking that can we connect all these southbound storages to different platforms seamlessly, like OpenStack or Kubernetes? Can we have that connectivity seamlessly? We started there. We have some projects, and we will see going forward what we have. Then we moved on to multi-cloud, because we started seeing that the data management is not only on-premise, it is happening in cloud. I think you have been working on this. We are already supporting multiple cloud vendors right now, right?
Right.
So you want to add something on that?
Yeah. So basically, if you see from the on-premise side, the on-premise, whenever we are talking about the storage, things were going normal. As Sanil was saying that, you were saying, Sanil, that it was simple and we made it complex. And in the journey of making the complex thing again simple, we tried to move to the cloud. And in that journey, we are again making that complex one. So it's not very simple. So be it the TCO or something that we try to move it to the cloud, but still we are making it more complex over there. And same will happen for the new technology like the edge and IoTs and all, whatever we are talking about right now.
True. So we started from on-premise, then we wanted more comfort, we moved to cloud. Now we want more and more comfort, so we move to edge.
Yeah.
So where it is distributed heterogeneous storage, especially it's purely distributed, we will see in the subsequent slides. And there are a lot of other challenges which we'll see in the subsequent slides. But we have to continue the journey.
Yes.
So where are we now? We started talking about on-premise. We started talking about cloud, and we are talking seriously about edge. Now we want to have data management across all these things, because they are not in isolation, right? Any user not in isolation, because as soon as you have a device start capturing a video, it is getting processed in multiple hops. It can be with the local data center, it can go to the cloud, and it can be processed in your device, because devices are becoming very resourceful these days, more compute power. So once you talk about data management, it is across. Even the hybrid cloud kind of usage is not really correct, may not be cloud as well. So it can be hybrid data management, right? So wherever you have the data from the source to destination across these hops, we should be able to manage the data seamlessly, right? How do we do that? And that too with a different heterogeneous storages. And the dimension of the problem is increasing when it comes edge as well, because the storage can be even a small SD card, right? So that is where the complexity is going to come for a seamless experience of data management and build business solutions on top of it. So that is where we started the previous kind of model, that the data management is unified. You have a global controller for manager and policies and things like that, and unified storage backends for edge and core and cloud. If you see overall architecture, it may not look like new, but the complexity of, say, connecting edge and core and cloud, if you divide edge itself, there are so many different storages that we can see in the core what we have done already, because there are different vendors, different platforms on the top. Cloud, anyway, we are going to have a detailed illustration as an example how these challenges we are trying to meet.
Yeah.
So it
Cloud
looks
also.
simple. Yeah, sorry.
No, I was saying that even in cloud also, similar for the core, there are multiple vendors coming every day with their own cloud, their private cloud, public cloud. So even it is increasing day by day.
Yeah, actually, the boundaries between cloud, core, and edge is, I think it is nothing.
Yeah, very thin. Very thin.
It's very difficult that whether you are in edge or not. Yeah,
exactly.
Your server can be edge when that is where you generate the data, right?
Right.
So let's see what we have now. So this is something like a project level architecture which we have in Soda Foundation as of now. That we have three key pieces, I can say now. Number one is the on-premise data management across heterogeneous storages and heterogeneous platform. So the green color, whatever you see, I hope you are seeing it as green on the top and the bottom. Yeah. The application platforms can be different. It can be Kubernetes, it can be OpenStack, it can be VMware. And the storage backends on-premise can be from different vendors. It can be NetApp, it can be IBM, it can be Dell EMC, and so on and so forth. Now, we try to connect them seamlessly. So we have an API controller and the dock where the driver is getting connected. This you can relate to the open data store architecture, which we have just discussed. And now we started preparing or building some kind of an API spec and API set, but we can't demand the existing platforms or storages mandate that they have to use it, because unless we make this as a standard, which we are working with standard bodies and other organizations, it takes time. Now, till then, how do we show the value of this, the whole concept? So what we have done is that both the sites, we try to make it something like a plugin model. So we have plugin for VMware, we have plugins for OpenStack, we have plugins for say single CSI plugin for Kubernetes to connect on the north side. And the south side, we prepare some kind of a SODA vendor driver adapter layer, so that the translation happens. Basically, the translation of API happens with a common unified data model. And that is the most critical part. So this is the first part on the on-premise. And the second one, the recent project, which we call it as Delphin. I mean, we are a bit crazy to give some crazy names. So this is called Delphin, other name of dolphin. So you will see dolphins everywhere in Soda. Now, the second part is called Soda Infrastructure Manager. The project is called Delphin. This is for most of the monitoring part, traditional SRM we call it. So resource monitoring, where you have resource monitoring, alert monitoring, and the performance monitoring. That's what we provide in that. Again, across the heterogeneous storage. Now on the third part, probably Ashit, you want to add something, what we are doing in third part.
Yeah, so basically, as we were talking, the same architecture that we have been following, the unified API, then backend manager, and the south side will go to the storage backend and all. So similarly, we have been doing the same for multi-cloud. So as you see, there are different vendors, different storage types, be it object, be it file, block, and different vendors. So what we and for every vendor, they will have their own SDKs, they will have their own APIs. So that is where we are coming. The multi-cloud will have the object APIs, will have the block services, file services, and which will again connect to the different backends. So what we are trying to do, as Sunil, you were saying that in one data framework. So what we are trying is that we are simply trying to make your life a little simple. We are just trying, and that is how we have different backend plugins that we write for cloud also. And so on the north side, whatever your platform is writing, that should not take care of any of the cloud vendor APIs and all. So that is how we are moving into the multi-cloud data management, and it is heterogeneous, be it the on-premise or be it the on cloud, the hybrid cloud management that we are trying to achieve through this multi-cloud project. And we call it a very sweet name, Gelato. That is a project name that we'll be referring. Yeah. So that is how the multi-cloud we are.
So by the way, the center part, we used to call it as hotpot earlier.
Yeah, right.
We are foodie guys. True. Okay, so let's see. So at least we talked about what is the need for this heterogeneous data management, why it is essential to go. And we have already seen that it's very challenging because every storage vendor has their own models and every platform has got their own protocols to communicate. Now, we talked about theory. And do we have really something working available? So can we show something really working?
And of course, we have, as we say, that we have the gelato for you. So we'll give you some gelato.
Yeah, so let's enjoy gelato then.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so now I am at a disposal.
Okay, so thanks, Sunil. So as Sunil was talking, you might see there are different APIs, there are different management constraints that we have. We need to take care of different APIs. So if you see as an admin, a cloud admin, there are different clouds, be it the AWS, Azure, GCP, or IBM, or any cloud for the sake. So to connect that, you need to get through the different APIs. And this becomes a little, for example, right now I'm in AWS cloud, I'm using some certain APIs. And tomorrow I want to move to Azure or come back to AWS, whatever, I want to switch in between the clouds. So how do you provide a unified thing so that whoever is writing the data or whoever is storing the data or whoever is managing the data, they are not bothered about what APIs I need to fire to the API to these clouds. So that is where Soda Multi-Cloud project comes into picture. And Soda Multi-Cloud, the Gelato, wants to give you a single unified APIs. So we have created certain APIs. So when if you can see the person over here, they want to connect to the cloud 1, 2, or 3. They don't need to invoke APIs, API 1, API 2, and API 3. So it is a single API. And this Gelato will take care of the routing the data or the calls to the different cloud vendors. So that is how we support data management for object, file, and block. And this unified APIs, again, we started with, as the clouds started with the object, we started with the object. We eventually are adding file and block drivers. So as Sunil was saying about the different adapters or different plugins that we write for the storage backend. So we are evolving this multi-cloud. That is how. Yes.
So Ashit, do we have that is something like object and file and block same unified API as of now, or we have object unified APIs, file unified APIs, and
so the APIs right now, they are object APIs, file APIs, and block APIs. So that is that is different. So for the 3 types of storage, there are 3 different setups.
But we will be moving towards something like a unified API where you can specify the storage class, right?
Exactly. So that is what we plan in our journey. so that it's simply based upon your intention. If your intention is based upon the object, file, or block, it will transform or polymorph itself.
Yeah,
So
story cannot stop because the paycheck is important.
Yes, right. Yeah, we can. Okay, so just move into this again. This block diagrams that you see, we refer it like our standard protocol of three different layers. If you see, there is a presentation layer, the dashboard, or any REST client. Then in between there is a service layer, and at the bottom you can find the different plugins or the storage layers. So I'll come from the bottom. So you have different cloud vendors. Now you want to manage your data, and this cloud vendors can be your public cloud or your private cloud. Anything it can be. It can be your on-premise object storage or something like Ceph, IG, Ceph, or it can be your public cloud. Now for those, you need to manage, and that is where the Unified Data Management API Gateway comes into picture. So when your application interacts, it interacts through this Unified Data Management API. So basically, it provides a cloud vendor agnostic data management for you. So this Unified API will internally connect to the backend drivers. So these are the adapters for every cloud. We have different adapters that has been written, which will manage their file, block, or object storage. And so basically, if you see, the cloud admin will be mostly worried about calling these APIs. And this is simple REST-based interface. We have global configurations. We'll see eventually when we go through the demos and all, we'll see that how we configure and manage it. And okay, so some of the important use cases that we are trying to solve is like data migration and data lifecycle management. So when you are in a cloud because of your geographical reason or because of some other company requirements and all, it might be that you want to migrate from one cloud to another, or forget about that from the one cloud to another. Maybe within the cloud, if your data is not very highly getting utilized, you want to archive it, right? So that migration also you can do. And again, you can put policies based upon the life cycle of the data. So that is.
So do we have some kind of data protection kind of features as well?
Yes. So data protection at different levels we are trying to provide. So for example, data at rest, data in flight, and we are leveraging the different cloud providers encryption technologies. So that we are leveraging, so that whenever so that security, as you brought out, the security part is very important whenever someone is moving into the cloud. So that definitely the multi-cloud takes care of that. Yeah, and we are again enhancing that security model for different cloud vendors, and be it different encryption technologies. We support some limited set of technologies as of now. For example, take an example of AWS KMS. We are taking. So it can be a user managed keys also. So that we will eventually head to. Yeah.
So this, so for object, it is S3 compatible APIs.
Right.
So, but for file and block, there is nothing like that, right? So our APIs will be something like a unified APIs.
Yes. So right now, S3 APIs are the industry standards protocol that for the object. But there is no standard protocol. So that is where we are defining our own APIs. That will be the standard APIs for file and block.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can move to the next slide. Okay. So there are different. So to build this architecture of multi-cloud, there are different services that we have. Again, object services, file services, and block services. So the crux is that if you see the API handler, the controller layer, and the adapter layer, again, the three parts we have been talking across the SODA different projects. So this API handler will connect to the S3 controller. They will store the metadata into the DB. And finally, the operations will be connected through the backend adapter to the backend.
So when you talk about this metadata, metadata database,
right.
Is it kind of... so we are going in a direction wherein is it pluggable kind of stuff so that a different kind of database can be plugged?
Yes. So what this S3 controller will connect to basically the backend adapter. and anyone can write their own data. So be it your MongoDB, be it your Cassandra, or be it your PostgreSQL. So PGSQL or something. So you can simply bring your that and write the plugin, and this will adapt. So that is
even the cloud backend writing, does it take too much of time? Just let's suppose that if we want to add a new cloud vendor.
Absolutely no. The framework is such that you simply need to know that what exactly the APIs or SDKs are supported by the cloud vendors. And once you bring in that, it is quite simple. Like we have seen the community developers in Soda, they have written the adapter for some of the cloud providers within a week. And that was a stable plugin that they have written. So that is how the plugin can be written for any new cloud. So suppose I come up with my own cloud. So writing the plugin for that in Soda is quite easy. And the applications on the north side remains like oblivious of all these backend adapters that is being added.
So basically, it doesn't need to know about all
this. Exactly.
That's good. Yeah. So do we have details of file and block?
Yeah. So similar, we have, as we see, there is a file service controller. Previously for object storage, it was a S3 controller, and rest of the things remains the same. The API authentication. Yeah. So again, we have the authentication for the APIs. So these all things, the nitty-gritties we take care of in the multi-cloud. And right now we have started, as we see, you can see some limited vendors we have started supporting. AWS, Azure, GCP, Huawei, public cloud and all. But eventually we'll be adding more cloud providers, because the metrics, if someone takes into the like multi-cloud metrics, supportability metrics, it is quite high. So that is what the object, whatever cloud vendors we are supporting, we are trying to support it for the file and block.
And again, depends on the cloud vendor whether they support it or not, right?
Exactly. So as you said earlier, that it's all started for the cloud vendors with the object storage. So even multi-cloud started with that. As and when they are supporting the file services, multi-cloud is adding those.
Yeah. So even I have seen that the file or block kind of services, even the cloud vendors started providing different kind of services, right? Even inside the file and block with some additional performance or something like that.
Right. Even their SLAs and all are different. Their performances are different. So different cloud providers have their own supportability.
How do you plan to take care of that? Let's suppose that if the cloud vendors support two different kind of file service. Mm-hmm. So how do we provide probably in Soda?
Yeah, so it all depends upon the what the user comes with. Like, so user wants to manage with, say, for file share type 1 and file share type 2. So we will support both, and it completely depend upon your request that is coming. So if the request is for file share 1, it will cater to that. So
but still the API will be the same. So you manage with that metadata, right? The model.
Yeah. So we work all the APIs work this on the metadata or the request that is coming. So based upon the request, as I said, it will transform itself into different internally. So that is internally. But what the APIs that the user sees is the same. It's a single APIs.
But still, we will have a challenge on supporting new features, which is provided by the different cloud vendors, to still making the APIs backward compatible, right?
Yes. So again, the thing is that there are some industry protocols for different APIs, different services that a cloud vendor provides for file share or the object or block, right? So if they are quite common, the different industry standards, that is quite easy for supporting them and maintaining that. If that is something like very unique to that cloud provider, it again depends upon we'll have to do some customization, but those customization are at the implementation at the backend adapter layer, not at the API layer.
Yeah. So we have enough work to do.
Yeah. So as you said, the paycheck leaves us.
Okay.
Yes. So block service, again, the same. We have the block service controller and rest of the architecture. So the architecture remains consistent. So if you see the API handler, and so the interaction, the API handler, how it communicates to the underlying layers remains the same. Only the controller and the adapter changes. So the outside interface for the user The REST client, if someone wants to write, or their own dashboard they want to create, that remains the same. And we are supporting the block device management. Right now, we have just started with the CRUD operations, and that is for AWS and Huawei. And we'll eventually add more cloud vendors over here.
Okay.
Yeah. So these are the three different storage services that we are providing. And underlying that, there are backend services. The backend services is like it will, and yeah, we can move ahead. Yeah, so this is one of the very important piece of multi-cloud that we have, the data mover or the flow service. So as we were talking about the data migration policies, the policy-based lifecycle management, right? So over there, user can define that, okay, I want to move my data from one bucket to another bucket, or one cloud provider to another cloud provider. So they define the rules, and those rules will be taken care by this data mover service or the flow service, data flow service. So they will take care of when the job has to be executed. They will put it on the Kafka, and those jobs will be picked up by this migration data mover. If you see the lower blue bar, so that will be taken care of that. So there are different policies. We check for the time when we user has set for this policies and all. So those all will be taken care by this data mover or the data flow service.
So both SODA, I mean infrastructure level metadata, and also the real data metadata will be in the same database, or
right.
Is it different or the same database?
So you are talking about the SODA and the user policy data.
Correct.
Yeah. So right now we are managing it through the different databases. One is through the MongoDB and one is through the TIDB, which is nothing but a enhanced key value based database. So that is managed through that. But so that is, again, as we were talking, that is like when we go through the adapter, it simply like the interfaces remains the same. So you can plug and play with different databases or the same database. So that is something we are heading towards.
So here, this data mover also, we support something like a custom kind of data workflow kind of stuff, right?
Custom workflow in the sense like
the policy can be something like, when this happens, do this kind of stuff. So other than that, let's suppose that if I want to complete a data migration, you need to have some steps of things to be done, right? Verify the source and verify the destination.
Right. So those all things are taken care by. So user just configures their cloud, and the APIs are there. Now inside that, the policies. Suppose I set the policy that after 30 days or after 60 days, move it to some of the archival storage. Right? So those metadata management and those policy checking, everything will be managed by this data flow.
Okay. So basically on the infrastructure part, all the verifications done by the platform itself.
Exactly, by the platform itself. And even while migrating the data, user can set that, okay, whether I want to keep the source data intact or not, or whether I can simply delete the source data and move it to the cloud. So that is based upon the user discretion. So, Okay.
Yeah, I think we have shown some diagrams and all. Now it is the time to show something really working.
Right. Something which is working and which can be used.
Can I start the video?
Yes. Please start the video. So
basically, this shows the data mobility across multiple cloud, right?
Right. And if you see over on the landing page over here, if you see there are different cloud providers that has been noted, and you can have different. So again, this volumes and all can be your cloud volumes or your on-premise volumes. The buckets are there, different buckets. So you configure the backends. So simply we can move to Yasin. So, okay. If you see, we have configured the Azure backend, and this is for the object storage that we have moved. And there are different buckets over there. So if you see, there are AWS bucket, Alibaba bucket, Azure bucket, and there we go. We create a bucket. So this is bucket is nothing but a virtual bucket that we create for a unified namespace in SODA. So we create this bucket in different clouds. And so the basic intention is that we'll have one bucket which will contain some objects. So if you see right now, we are uploading objects in one of the bucket in AWS, and you have another bucket that is created in Azure, bucket or container, as we say in terms of Azure. So we can simply migrate the data from one cloud to another cloud. That is what we are showing. So over here we have uploaded, and yeah, and the same can be seen in the cloud provider, that there are the 2.jpg and this PDF that we have uploaded in this bucket. Now we'll go and yeah, as we are talking about this data flow service, now you can create a plan that, okay, I'll migrate from one cloud provider to another. So you select the source bucket from so over here, the source bucket is AWS and destination is the another Azure bucket, right? And we can set that when you want to migrate. So it's not basically only immediately it will migrate. And as you see, we had selected the delete source. So source will be deleted. And this is how it is running. It is migrating the data from AWS bucket to the Azure bucket. So it is complete now. Now we can check that what the buckets hold right now. We can go to the demo AWS. Okay, as we selected, the source data should be deleted. This has been deleted over here. And we can see. Right, now we can go to the demo Azure. This is our Azure container. We can see that those data has been migrated over here. So these data are available over here. So this is something like when we show, you can see that the use case behind this, there are multiple things. You can set the policy, you can set the migration time based upon your uses. You can set your storage classes, as you see, tier 1, tier 2, the data tiering and all can happen over here.
Even the lifecycle management, right, can be done, right?
Exactly, the lifecycle management can be done over here. So this is how the SODA, so this is a demo for the whatever APIs, unified APIs that we have given. So if you see, maybe you can go to this project, you can see that how the unified APIs will look like. So we'll give you that link also. Yes, sir, you can move. Yes, and so we talked about this cloud and all, but right now, as we see that the trend is from core to cloud to edge. So do we have something for the edge also?
So this story has to continue, like I mentioned, like we discussed. So story has a new twist, which is called edge today. And in the interest of time, I think we are overshooting the time. So I'll go a little faster.
Yes.
Okay. So basically this is like, there's a fact that centralized to decentralized to distributed, we are moving to edge is a fact. And so what is edge is like, wherever you generate the data, you try to process it as close as the source.
Right.
And now, sorry?
No, that is the USP of the edge.
True. So that you have much better response and you utilize the resources everywhere. Right. Now, but if you see edge is not edge, that's what we have shown one more diagram before. The whole management of data is heterogeneous. There is nothing like a specific kind of stuff. Edge is in isolation. So edge and core and cloud is together, right? So the data management should seamlessly happen across. And the challenges when you consider the edge is becoming very severe. Why? Because data is everywhere. It's not just on cloud storages or on-premise storages. Data is everywhere. In your watch, maybe in your ring tomorrow, and your buttons and wherever. So everywhere the data is there. Now you need to manage this data. Its mobility, its value, whatever inferences you want to take it from the data. It's very important. Now, it has got its own challenges when you have this kind of a pure, real kind of P2P data distribution, right? So there are multiple challenges here.
Yeah. So these challenges can be like, we try to solve the simple problem, the complex problem, and make it simple. But the challenges, they are friends. The core, edge, cloud, with all their technologies and all, they become a friend. So this data can come from any source. So it can be like whether you generate it on-premise, on cloud, whether you generate it while moving your car, automate car automation, or anything, right? Your wearable device and all, you can generate the data. These data are distributed. Actually, when so for example, when we are talking about the edge, as you say, the data needs to be near to the source, right? So data, whatever data I'm generating in a stream, that will be stored differently. So these are distributed. Now, data ownership. So that also becomes one of the part, like who owns the data. And data mobility. This is very important when we talk about this edge or anything so for example, take an example of automated car. So we are we are collecting some data. So the car has been moving from one location to another. So as the location changes and as the edge USP or edge, one of the important factor is the edge computing and all. The data should be near to the data center, right? Wherever the data has been generating, we are generating the data, it should be near to that. So you will move from one data center to another data center as the car moves or as the data moves. So that is how the data mobility comes into picture. And whenever you are presenting that data, it's not something like I can give a fragmented data. The data should be it should be consolidated and it should be unified. So that's the challenge of the data mobility that become. And same, you can talk about the heterogeneous data.
Yeah. On top of that, this data can be different kind of data. It can be a simple your fitness data. It can be a video. So the type of data is becoming heterogeneous. It's not about heterogeneous storages. It's heterogeneous data itself. It's the variety of the data is mounting. The data consistency, because of the data ownership, what Ashit mentioned, because of that itself, the data consistency, ensuring the data consistency is not very easy. I'm talking a little faster because lack of time. Low time. So low latency is another key requirement at edge. Offline scenario is another big challenge because the edge, naturally, we have an inherent requirement that even if it is disconnected from the cloud, it should work seamlessly. So the offline scenarios are very, very important. Now we have more very intrinsic challenges. And how do we go about it? Right. So what we come up with is that we have already seen in the industry, there are many edge computing platforms, be it cloud native, be it industry like HX Foundry and Akraino for 5G and kind of stuff. So there are edge computing platforms available, and the data acquisition generally happens through the computing platform. Now, can we connect our data management on data framework of SODA or similar kind of stuff with the computing platform? That was our exploration to start with. Now, as I mentioned, there are a lot of other challenges. Now, can we do this? Is it a real thing? Whatever dream we had initially, we tried to show that some of them are in reality today. So in edge case, we started that way. Is it real? That is when we try to pick one edge computing platform along with SODA. This edge computing platform is an open source CNCF project called Cube Edge, which is a Kubernetes native. Why we have taken Kubernetes native? It is containerization is very predominant these days, and also we support CSI. That's why we picked Cube Edge as an example, and we try to connect these two. How? Now, we in SODA, as we shown initially on premise, we support CSI plugins. Now, Cube Edge support CSI plugin for storage, though it is not doing any local storages. So we exploited that interface, whatever is available right now. And then we have created a particular demo connecting that. Can we do just a basic provisioning using Cube Edge and SODA Edge? And that we have released in the last Greenland release with some kind of a POC. And we are continuing that work going forward, because CSI is, I think CSI is one of the key interface probably we want to support.
So Sunil, so in this case, the CSI interface or the Cube Edge framework, that becomes the northbound plugin for the CSI plugin.
Exactly. It's almost similar as, so the edge, when it comes to edge, the edge computing platform becomes north to the SODA. Just like on-premise, we have Kubernetes OpenStack. In edge scenario, these edge computing platform ideally should be the northbound platform to the SODA, and we take care of the storage management for heterogeneous data, mobility, and the storages. Yeah, that's a very good point. That is where we want to go. There are other challenges because this is very initial stage. We want to take it forward because the SODA has to be trimmed down, it has to be light, and all the edge requirements should be met. So what we are thinking is that we plan to have some kind of special interest group for edge and data management. So that is where we are heading to, and the story has to continue. The story continues that we are trying to build different components, putting together to make our dream a reality. Partially, it is real today. So we can work together with in the industry organizations and the community developers. We can work together to reach this dream of realizing this infinite possibilities and seamless data management across anywhere. It's not edge or cloud or core, anywhere. That's where we wanted to go so that the business can fully focus on immense possibilities of use cases. So if you want to join, we have the GitHub, we have the Slack. We just need to join the Slack and then say hi. We are there, and we can take it forward wherever, whichever interest area, be it edge or cloud or on-premise or any other ideas on data management, we can work together. And that's all we have today to share with you. We hope that we can collaborate more to make this dream a reality. Ashit, you want to add something?
Yeah, no, as you said, like we have different channels to connect, and as no story can be a solo character can continue that story or any journey. So we need your help, we need your support, we need your support basically for all this sort of foundation thing that we are doing, the unified one data framework that we are doing. So join us, and we'll have some good time to solve industry use cases.
Interesting problems, yeah. So open source collaboration is the strength. Okay, thank you so much for listening to us. Hope you enjoyed this story, and we welcome you to be part of the story. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Reach out to us anytime.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.